Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and start. Yes, let's go ahead. Okay, so today is August the 23rd, 2022. It's 1:30 in PM, and we are at Library Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And so this is a Deaf Journey or Deaf Journeys series. And so typically we're going to do this once a month. So it's perfect that we picked Briella to join us today. So proud to work with her. So, okay, we have a voice interpreter for the rest of the audience to listen as well. And so we are going to have captioning after this is over with, and then we will upload it to YouTube. And we will have Nashville Public Library YouTube channel and the Library Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Facebook as well. Both of those will have it available for you to be able to watch later if you want to. Okay, so who in the audience or everybody, if you would please mute yourself and turn your camera off so that way we can have this dialogue and conversation about her life, about how she grew up and all. So okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Brenda Boaz Pond. Yes, Boaz hyphen Pond. And so I am the library program specialist at the Library Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So do you want to introduce yourself, please? Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. So happy that everybody could take the time to come and watch today, or maybe you're watching later on Facebook or on YouTube or wherever you're watching. So thank you for taking the time to do that. My name is Briella Diaz, and I don't have a sign name. I just fingerspell my first name, Briella. It's pretty easy to spell. It kind of flows, Briella, it just, really flows easily. And so that's who I am. Okay, so the first question, um, your family, the first question is please tell me about your family and your hearing loss. Yes, sure. I'll go ahead and talk about my family. I was born in Utah. I'm not going to tell you the year. You don't need to know that. I'll just tell you that I was born in Utah in the 1990s. And so um, I was born into a deaf family. My parents are both deaf. My siblings are deaf, and I am the oldest of three children. I'm the only one in my family who is hard of hearing, even though, I really identify as deaf. I am culturally deaf, and I tell people that I am deaf. But according to my audiogram, technically I am hard of hearing, but my hearing level is mild to moderate. And so I don't know if I will continue to lose, I haven't been tested in a while, but that's my hearing level. And so, yes, my family is all deaf. And on my mom's side, they are all generationally deaf. My mom is the oldest of nine children, and all nine children are deaf. My grandparents are deaf. My great uncle is deaf. My great grandparents are deaf on my grandma's side. And so there is really a big, long deaf gene back on that side of my family. On my dad's side, my dad is the only one who is deaf in his family. Now, he does have a hard of hearing sister, but she is, she speaks for herself and, but she can sign and they do sign in their family. He is from Puerto Rico. My mom is from Idaho. So a mix of a lot of different cultures and backgrounds, different hearing levels and all of that. But that's my family in a nutshell. Great. Second question. Tell me about your childhood. Oh, sure. Yes. So do you want to know about my educational background as well? Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I have an interesting background with school and my childhood. As I mentioned before, I was born in Utah, in the Salt Lake City area. And at that time, in the 1990s in Utah, the educational philosophy was varied. And so there were a lot of different approaches, there were a lot of different philosophies really out there. And so a lot of those philosophies did not match with what my parents really wanted for me. And so the options were either to go to the School for the Deaf, but the School for the Deaf really didn't have the bilingual, bicultural philosophy there. At that time, they didn't. Now things are different, but back at that time, that didn't exist. So my parents struggled with that. Or I could have gone into a mainstreaming program where I would have been the only deaf person in a hearing high school and or in a hearing school. And so my parents didn't really want that. So there were several other parents in Utah that felt the same way. They weren't the only ones. So they finally decided to go ahead and found their own school. And so that school is now called the Jean Massue School for the Deaf. Uh, and so they just celebrated, I guess it's not very recent now, but it's been 23 years since they've been, founded and running. And so they really wanted to have that by approach, the bilingual, bicultural approach to offer sign language and English and to have, the culture of the hearing world plus the deaf world as well. And so they really wanted to be able to have that philosophy. They wanted the teachers who had already been trained and had degrees in deaf ed specifically with that bye approach. And so that's where I went. And I grew up there for a while until I was in seventh grade. Now, before that, well, let me back up just a little bit. That school at the beginning, it accepted hearing students. Anyone who is a CODA, a child of a deaf adult, or a SODA, meaning a sibling of deaf adults. And so, if parents wanted to send their deaf child and their hearing siblings or any variation of that, they could go to that school. And so, I grew up interacting with signing people. It didn't matter what their hearing level was, if they were hearing or deaf, or that didn't matter as long as they signed. So, I grew up in that environment. Plus, I went to the deaf church, while I was growing up. And so, I was fully immersed in the signing community. And the deaf church doesn't mean that everybody was deaf either. There was hearing deaf codas and sodas and interpreters and all kinds of different people out there, but they all signed. And so I really felt like it was very normal to be in a signing environment. Despite your hearing level, as long as everybody signed, that was completely normal. And so I knew that I had hearing people who didn't know sign language, but that was those people over there. They really weren't part of my life. And so I just kind of went along with life. So that's how I grew up until I was in the seventh grade. And at that time, my classroom, I was I had been in with the same nine kids. We had, it was, kind of like the deaf school in general. You travel up through the grades with the same people. They're small classrooms, and I got the benefit of that myself. And so there were a lot of kids who had transferred out to bigger deaf schools or to the mainstream programs. And so, I mean, really, we had whittled down till it was just me left in the class. And my parents felt, real important for her to have that social opportunity. And so they thought maybe I would have more challenges in education somewhere else. So they decided to move me to the mainstream program. Now, it wasn't a mainstream program where I was the only deaf person, and there was no deaf ed program in there. My home was, similar or close in proximity to that middle school, but it was probably 1 or 2 years that I went there. And so the first semester, I had an interpreter, and that interpreter was not certified. And so it wasn't an awful interpreter, but it wasn't the most qualified interpreter. And so it ended up that interpreter resigned, decided not to continue interpreting. So I had no interpreter. And at that time, I was still trying to figure out my identity as a deaf person, even though I grew up in the deaf community and, signing culture and all of that. When I went into the hearing environment, I was, really shocked. That was kind of a new world. It was a completely different environment to me. And I thought, oh, wow. And so that made me, remember, I'm hard of hearing. And so that was the first time that I was like, oh, hard of hearing. I'm not actually deaf. Well, what does that mean for me? And, I mean, I didn't know. I mean, I knew I could speak, I knew I could hear some. And so, what does that mean? And so I was just trying to figure all of that out. And so I had no interpreter. And so I was going through school without an interpreter for another semester. And I did okay with some things, English, history. I could keep up with that. It really depended on the teacher as well. Some of the teachers, the voices were very clear. I could understand them. Some of the teachers were not clear, or some of the content was just hard for me to understand, like math, for example. If it was taught in English, then, I really had a tough time keeping up, and a lot of it just went over my head. And so at the end of that year, I was struggling. My parents thought, no, and I agreed with them. I'm really glad that they made that decision. I realized that wasn't for me. It really wasn't working out for me. So I decided to go back to that deaf school, and it is a charter deaf school. Um, that school was a charter deaf school for quite a long time. Now it is mainstream or I'm sorry, it's merged with the Utah School for the Deaf. But for a while, it was a charter school, freestanding. And so I went back there for ninth grade, and it was fine. But I was the only kid in my class. And so, I socialized with the younger classes, the eighth graders. I was in ninth grade, and that was fine. I got along with them. But it was just different. And my siblings also felt that they were fine, but they wanted more, So my parents decided to go ahead and move to Kansas. And you're thinking probably, why Kansas? What's in Kansas? Well, my parents had really looked at different schools for the deaf, like New Mexico School for the Deaf, Kansas School for the Deaf, and maybe even Fremont Deaf School. And so, all of them had that bilingual, bicultural philosophy. And so I thought, okay, well, but which was the best fit for our family? And so they decided to go to Kansas, and they felt like that was a good fit for our family. Plus, it was a very small school, it wasn't this huge school. And so I felt like we felt like there were more opportunities there. So sure enough, we moved and we got to Kansas. I was beginning 10th grade, and that was also a bit of culture shock for me, even though I grew up in a signing environment and I went to, the deaf charter school. But this was my first time actually going to a deaf residential school, an actual, dorm experience. I had never experienced that before, or going to a school that had sports, or things like academic bowl. And so that was just something that I had never had access to previously. Let me back up again. Utah did have sports, but it was more of a program where you would get together with other schools, mainstream kids would come. It was more like club sports, basically. But this was the first time that there were school sports. And so, really, it was new for me to experience something like that. The teachers were different, the dorms, oh, wow. And so, I wasn't a dorm student, but just to even have that access and to be able to see what it looked like, it was a real culture shock for me. And so I went along, but I was immersed in it and I loved my time there. And I was only there for a short 3 years, sophomore to senior year, but I still look back and I just loved that school. It rocked. And so I graduated from there in 2013. I graduated, and my next step was, to figure out what to do, college. So I decided to go to Gallaudet University. And it was like, so that's basically my childhood. Is there anything that I missed there? No, 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 that was good. Okay, so you said that it was culture shock. Yes. So does that mean that there were more peers that signed there, different than at your other school? Yes, it was different because, again, Utah was different. At that time, I mean, now I'm sure things are different. I mean, because it's been over almost 15 years ago. So, I'm sure that things have changed for sure. Right, 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 right. But yes, I was around deaf people, and a lot of them were more, they did SimCom, or they had more of an oral background where they, spoke and read lips. And so that was the environment. It wasn't negative, it was just different. And so when I came to the school for the deaf, it was like, oh, wow. And their signing was just so fluent, and, creative slang, and just, all these deaf signs that I had never had in Utah. And so it was just different. And the culture, in Utah, the general culture there, right, right, right. And for Kansas, Kansas is more rural, it's a farm based community. And so the culture was just different. So it was good exposure for me. It was a good kind of culture shock, but I wanted more. I wanted to learn everything that I could. I wanted to meet as many people as I could and just interact with everybody. So I did really enjoy it there. Wow, that's great. To be able to have more exposure to, different settings in school, and just to be able to have that, wow. So you went to Gallaudet, and what did you major in? Well, before I went to Gallaudet, I went to camp called Youth Leadership Camp, YLC. And that camp was in Oregon. And it was specifically for deaf high school students to learn about leadership. I mean, it was really great. It was a great experience for me. I went there before my senior year. And at that camp, I saw one person who spoke about early intervention. And there are different signs for that word, intervention. Um, oh, yes, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen this. Yes, there's a myriad of different signs that you could use, but I prefer this sign for intervention. So they talked about that, and something about that presentation just really clicked with me. And, like I mentioned before, I grew up in a school that had a variety of, deaf children. And so at the very beginning, when I grew up, I played with, kids that had no judgment, they, had different language, they looked different than me, they had different education, it didn't matter. But as I got older and older, I started to notice that some of the kids, were friend that I was friends with were struggling in school compared to me. I was fine. I never really understood what the difference was until that presentation. And plus there was some more exposure, and I realized that I learned about language deprivation, and that they didn't have enough access to language, and that impacted their education, their social, and everything in a person's life. And so I realized that I was fortunate enough to have full access my whole life. Like I mentioned, I am from a deaf signing family. I went to deaf church. I went to school that had deaf signing, and or had deaf people, and it was all signing. I had full access. And so I realized at that time that the other children that I was, good friends with didn't have the same experience than I did. And that was very eye opening, and it impacted them. And I was like, wow. So that always stuck with me. And so when I saw that, I just never thought that I could do anything about it. I just thought, oh, well, that's how it is. Oh, well. And when I saw that presenter, I realized that I could do something about it, that I can make a difference, that I can support those children and families. And so I went to Gallaudet, and I wanted to be in early intervention something as a major. So I got to Gallaudet, and early intervention was only at the graduate level. They didn't have that for the bachelor's level. And so I decided to go into early childhood education. I thought, well, I'll start with that. And so I really enjoyed it. I went through my freshman, sophomore year until they started talking about state standards and testing and IEPs and classroom management. And I thought, oh, I mean, those are really important things, and I respect it, but it was just not for me. And so I thought, oh, I don't really relate to that it doesn't really relate to early intervention. And so I thought, So I thought, I'm going to have to talk to my mom and figure out what to do. And my mom said, well, why don't you just self-design your own major. And I thought, oh, right, you can do that at Gallaudet. There are a lot of colleges and universities that offer that, but I decided to create my own degree. And so I did it in bilingual outreach. Now, I minored in linguistics with a heavy emphasis on early childhood education. So, but that's what my degree is in. And so I basically picked classes from psychology, the social work department, family child studies, communication access, a variety of different departments, and picked the classes that best fit my degree for early intervention because has always been my goal. And so as I went along, I finally graduated from that. And after graduation, I got a temporary job with Gallaudet as their admissions counselor. And so I basically, recruited people to go to Gallaudet. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. It was just a temporary job. And I thought, well, why not? So I went ahead and did that. And I worked for that. I worked on the western side of the state. And so there were a lot of different states that, on the West Coast. And so a lot of my time was going to mainstream schools, either with a deaf program or a single deaf student in that school, and a few deaf schools as well. Some of them were great positive experiences, and some of them, when I got there to the mainstream programs, and I would see one kid, out of the whole school that was deaf, and I would explain about Gallaudet, and they would say things like, "What's the ACT?" or "College? Oh, can my parents come with me?" Or just really not understanding what college was or not really understanding testing. And I would just look at that and I was looking, language deprivation was obviously there, social deprivation was there. And I just thought, okay, I thought that's a one time thing. And so as I moved on, that was happening more and more often than not. And these kids weren't ready for school. And so I remember one situation where I got to a big mainstreaming program, and those kids were very excited to see me. They were so ready for college. They would ask me all kinds of questions. We were having this dialogue, and I was like, great, I'm at a good school. And so as we were going along, we finished, the kids left, and the teacher said, "Oh, I feel bad for these students. They can't go." And I said, "What do you mean?" And this teacher said, "Oh, well, they won't get a high school diploma. They're just going to get a certificate of completion, and that's all. It's not going to be a diploma." And so for Gallaudet, if you don't have a high school diploma or if you don't have a GED, then you can't enroll. You have to get one or the other. And so I was like, oh. And guess who had to tell them that you couldn't go when they applied? Me. So that day it really impacted me. And I just had so many mixed emotions. I was in the wrong place, I kind of got here too late. I need to go back to, what my real goal was, this early intervention. And I need to change the impact on families so that by the time those children get to high school, they're ready. They know what to do. It doesn't matter whether they've been mainstream or gone to a school for the deaf. It doesn't matter. The point is that they will be ready and prepared. They will have language. They will have social opportunities. They will know what to do. And so I decided not to continue at that job. And so I stopped doing that and I thought, okay, what's my next step? And I looked around. I thought, I could teach, but, and so I decided that Tennessee had popped up. I had a friend who lived there, and the friend said, "There's a good opportunity here," and I was like, I don't know. And so Tennessee kept popping up, and I was like, "There's something about Tennessee." And so they announced a position that was opening for a deaf mentorship program, a coordinator, and I thought, "Oh, me as a coordinator? Okay. I mean, I could. I mean, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough knowledge. Can I really do this? I mean, I don't know. But let's go ahead and apply. I'll go ahead and do that anyway. So won't hurt, right?" So I sent in my application and I got it. And now I've been here for 3 years and I am just enthralled with this job. At this field. I just enjoyed working with families, and I enjoy, working with my deaf mentors, my deaf family counselors. I mean, they're just wonderful. I mean, I really have made a difference in their lives, but they've made a difference in my life too. And so, yeah, that's what my journey has been so far. Wow, that's a great story about how you arrived at, your job and oh yeah, look where I am now. Yes, right, as coordinator. But who told you about that job? How, like before you got there, how did you find out about that job? Well, I started really I have a very good friend who lives here. It's a married couple and they work for TSD and they know my interests, they know my passion related to early intervention, and they heard that TSD was planning to set up a deaf mentoring program. And so they asked me if I wanted to go to training, and I thought, why not? Sure, I'll go to training. And I met a woman by the name of Tracy Duncan. I met her and I thought, wow, I was really impressed with her and her work, her work ethic. And I met another woman named Sharon Bryant, and she was a very active deaf mentor. I was very impressed with her too. She had a lot of good energy, and so, that training really stuck with me. And so when they opened that position for coordinator, it was really just a bunch of little things just aligning perfectly, and that's kind of how it happened. Ah, that's great. I am so happy for you. Yeah, so happy you got the job that you wanted. Yes, right. So I was wondering, as you were growing up, did you have any self-care? Did you learn any of that? Oh, yes, I'm glad you brought it up because mental health is really important. Yes, I admit that I don't think that anyone, knows how to do mental health perfectly the first time. It is a process. And so I remember, in high school, I really struggled with mental health. And I thought, "Oh, what?" I I knew that I was struggling, but I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know what coping skills to use. I didn't know how to self-regulate, or I mean, I struggled. But I did know one person here who's in the audience now who was a librarian at Tennessee School for the Deaf. And she was very supportive of me. And, that's at Kansas School for the Deaf. And there were people, in my life, my parents. I mean, I can't mention how much my parents have meant to me, through my time, through my struggles, when I was lost and unsure of what to do, and thought, what am I going to do? Where am I going? They've really supported me and guided me. And so there are people for me to know that it was helpful for me to know that people care and that they're here to support me. And I would have to let them do that. So one of my biggest self-care things was just to let people help me more than, saying, oh, I can do it myself. I'm a very independent person, very independent. I'm a go-getter. And so I just want to do things on my own. But sometimes you can't, and that's okay. And so you have to admit, I need support, and you need to let help people help you, and then you take off from there. So that was my self-care. Now, right now, I'm a lot better with my mental health. I'm more stable. It's a process. And so for me, it's taking a break sometimes. Sometimes I really, get too, bogged down with my work, or, too into my hobbies or something like that. So I just need to take a break, settle down, do nothing, lay on the couch, maybe with my cat. That's a really big form of self-care. Go for a walk, and I'll play. Now, listen, I wanted you to know I'm a nerd. And so I love to play Pokemon Go. And so everyone's like, seriously, you're still playing that game? But yes, yes, I really love that because it forces me to go out on a walk and to explore my community and to, just explore things. And so that's what I do. So yeah, that is really how I do my self care. Wow, that's good. Um, I've tried Pokemon before, just for a very brief time. I went out and, kind of looked at everything and I was like, wow, that's really interesting, just to kind of get you out of the house. Right, exactly. All right, so my next question for you is, suppose you have a time machine and you want to go back, or, what would you want to do? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, I would not change anything about my life, honestly. I mean, yes, I've gone through some tough times, some rough times, but I've gone through some great times too. And so I think that if I went back to change all of the rough times, then I would not really understand the good times either. And so I think you have to have both to appreciate life. But now, if I were able to go back in time, I would go back all the way to the 1880s. And I would change deaf education a little bit. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I mean, some of you might be aware, I'm not going to go in depth too much, but the audience should really look up the Milan conference and see what happened at that conference, because that really was the change that impacted deaf education in general. And so I would go back and educate people a little bit more about the benefits, the pros of different types of philosophy with education, the different ways that there are. And so, really my work now with my interaction with families and such, there is no one way that works for everyone. There is no, what do you call it? One size fits all. It doesn't exist. And so I believe that you need to provide them everything. You need to provide them all the tools possible for a child. And so if I could go back, I would go back to that conference and I'd say, hey, we should provide everything possible for our children and not limit them to just one path. Yes, yes. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, next question. What is the most amazing thing that you have accomplished while you were growing up? Uh, what did you accomplish? I think if you had asked me at different ages, I would respond differently. Like, for example, if you had asked me when I was 8, I would have said, oh, my biggest accomplishment was the picture for Sorensen Relay services. And now some of you may or may not realize, but you've probably seen the picture of the little girl, in the advertisement with short hair with the video relay sign. That was me. I was 8. And so I was so proud of that. I got $100 for that picture. And I was like, wow, I'm rich and I'm famous. I'm successful. So at 8, that would have been my biggest accomplishment. But now I would probably respond differently. But like I said, at every time in my life, it kind of changes. So when I was 12, I participated in a play for the Deaf Olympics for 20, let's see, it was the 2007 Deaf Olympics in Salt Lake City. And so I participated in that, and it was really cool because there were hearing and deaf actors side by side with one another on stage. So one character had 2 actors, and so I was alongside a hearing character that would voice lines even when I would sign lines. And so, I mean, that just made me realize that I really liked being on stage. I really enjoyed I mean, I'm not an actor that much now, but I still enjoy public speaking. I enjoy connecting with an audience. And so, that's one of my biggest accomplishments in college. I have several, but one that really stands out was my freshman year, my first year there when I went to Gallaudet. There was an ASL competition show. And so I went because my friends told me, "Oh, you should go. You have some skills." And I'm like, "Really? Okay." So I did. And I signed a song. Now, that song had no lyrics, no lyrics. It was just music. So I created my own story to match the beat and the rhythm of that song. So it was my own ASL story, but it matched the music. And so it was really cool. It was a fun song to do, and I got to perform, and I ended up winning first place in that competition. Yay for you. Yeah, yeah, yay. So, that's something that I really enjoyed. So, yeah. Now, I mean, really, my biggest accomplishment is the work that I do. I can't explain too much, or I can't explain one specific thing because it's just a holistic thing. But the people that I work with, I love that. And the families that I involved, I mean, I love it all. Yes, yes. So, are you ready for me to show your picture? Bring it on. Let's see it. Okay, I'm going to share it. Okay, I see you now. Okay. So, these pictures, these are you and your the three of y'all, you and your brother and sister. Yes. I was 5. And there's your dad. Yes, my dad and my sister. I was about 3 there. There's your mom. Yes, my mom and my brother. I was about 2 at that age. There you are laughing and having a good time. Yes, I was 8. Yep, you're jumping in the ball pit. Where are you at? I'm not exactly sure where I was. I think I was probably at some birthday party or something like that. Now, my dad, he always would take pictures or videos. He always had, that was one of his things. Dad was always shooting video or pictures or something. He had everything recorded. So I'm pretty sure that my dad probably took that picture. That's cool. Ah, face paint. Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. I had an emo phase. Everyone at my age at that time had one of those. And so, I was very into makeup and, looking cool and all that kind of stuff. So that's from that. Oh, yeah. It's part of the teenage years, right? Yes, it was the teenage phase. Yeah, you were a teenager at that time. Yes, I was. I might have done the same thing. Yes, it was when I had just moved to Kansas, School for the Deaf. And so I had just gotten there. And so this is the phase that I went through. Oh, look at your short hair. Right, right. Yes, a lot of people didn't know or didn't realize Gallaudet has a tradition that your freshman year, they shave their heads or they would dye it and they would shave it. So, it's not required, but, if you want to participate, it's a free for all. And so I took advantage of it. So, I was like, when was I ever going to do that again? So I went ahead and shaved my head and it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it, but I grew it back out. And so now here I am with long hair again. And here's the last one. So it looks like maybe you have like horns or something like that. Oh yeah, it was a filter. So this was something that I know your computer, you of course you like computer, you play in technology and things like that. Yes, yes. So I think that's all your pictures. So that's cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my personalities. That's my life. Um, Oftentimes, you mask yourself to look professional or to give a good impression. But I have a fun side too. And so that's why I wanted to show you all of the filter picture because, I can be a little bit fun, but technology is something I really do enjoy. Yes, definitely. Okay. Well, I'm just watching the time here. I think we still got enough time, but I'm going to ask a couple more questions here. Okay. So, what challenge have you overcome? So, like, if you were involved in the hearing world, what challenge have you overcome in that situation? Interesting. In my work with families, oftentimes they ask me, were you ever bullied? Or, what was that like for you? And I was mainstreamed, like I mentioned before. And so I was around hearing kids. And yes, there were a lot of friends who were really great to me. People that I'm still in touch with today, hearing people who I still just get along with and we just love each other so much. But there were mean kids too. And so to be honest with you, it never bothered me. I never took it personally. I was just, I always felt bad for them when they would say something like, "Oh, your voice sounds weird. You must be deaf," or, "Your family is deaf," or, I, I don't know, "Why do you always ask me to repeat things?" And so little things like that, they would comment like that. And I would be like, well, I feel bad for you because you're the one that's missing out on all of this culture and, the language. How many languages do you know? One? Well, I know two. And so there were things like that that really never bothered me. That was just more of like, okay, whatever. You don't have to talk to me. Move along, I'll go on with my life. And so, um, was I bullied by hearing people? I mean, really, I'm thankful to my parents for that because my parents would always emphasize, strength, believe in who you are as a deaf person and, have a strong identity as a deaf person. And so I did ask my mom, I said, even though I was hard of hearing and my siblings are both deaf, my whole family is really profoundly deaf. Okay. They cannot hear anything. So I would ask my mom, why am I hard of hearing? Why'd you put me into deaf school? And why didn't you put me in mainstreaming school? And she said, my mom answered, she says, we could have put you more in the hearing world because I could hear some. But she felt that that would really confuse me with my identity as to which world do I belong to, the deaf world, the hearing world. And so she decided it would be better for me to be immersed in one world. And then later, if I decided for myself, or later I could decide for myself what I wanted. And so, I'm really thankful for that because even though I can hear and I can speak, I have a very strong deaf identity. And so, yes, I can hear, but I am still deaf. When I go to restaurants, when I go to any public place, when people are talking, I'm lost. I can hear it, but I don't understand it. People will talk with foreign accents, or if they have facial hair with a mustache and a beard, it's really hard for me to try to keep up lip reading. And so I am still deaf at the end of the day. I am deaf. So I'm really thankful for my parents for making that decision and immersing me in the deaf community and signing culture. And now, I still have that option to move between the two. If I want to try to listen and speak for myself, I can. If I want to use ASL, I can. And so, I'm sorry, I got a little off track. Let me come back to my biggest challenge has been, oh, I don't know. I think mental health, that's the biggest part for me. I really struggle with mental health, depression, anxiety. I think that a lot of people today struggle with that. And, it's something that we really need to talk about and not just push aside or hide or act like it doesn't exist because it's really important to talk about it. And so, yes, I mean, I have struggled still to this day, but I have overcome that. And I'm really thankful to my community for helping me through that. Oh, yes, that's true. Yes. We need more people, more deaf people who are involved in the mental health, um, work out there. There's not enough of them out there. We need more of that. Absolutely true. Yes, we do. But the important thing is that, you lived. Oh, you loved. Yes, I was loved and I spread love. It's sometimes harder to spread it. So, yes, I encourage everybody, when love your community and work together and try to understand that. Okay, so I'm wondering if, let's see, do you have, hmm, okay, so do you have any final words that you would like to share with the audience? Well, I think that my final words would be, depending on who my audience is, so if you're parents of a deaf child and you are not sure, what life is going to be like for your deaf child, maybe you don't know who to talk to or where to go, or, you're just watching this video on YouTube. I want to share with you that it will be okay. The important thing is to find the right resources, find the right people who can support you. Don't give up. Prioritize your child's language access. When you do that, then it will be okay. Support your child. Your child will be okay. Deafness is not a huge obstacle. The obstacle is not having enough language. And so that is something that we really need to focus on. So for those of you who are in the deaf community out there who are, taking the opportunity to watch this, my final words to you are, I love you. I went to Utah. I lived in Kansas, Utah, and Tennessee. And, there's big deaf communities there. And I admit that I took that for granted a little bit. And so I thought, oh, that's everywhere. Now that I'm in Tennessee, there is a deaf community here, but it's a lot smaller. And so I am just realizing how important a strong deaf community is so that we can support one another, be involved. Maybe, if you have agencies like the National Association for the Deaf, if you have something like that in your community, get involved. If you have, anything, just get involved because the deaf community needs you and you need us. I mean, it goes both ways. My community, I know they need me, and so I want to encourage you wherever you are, get involved at any level, whatever your interest is, just get involved. And then let's see, who else would be in my audience? Deaf community and parents. I would think those would be the two main ones, right? Yeah, friends of deaf people, maybe parents of deaf children, and your family. Yeah. Oh, family. Yes, my family. I know my dad is here. I think my mom is here too. So I love you both. I love you. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I mean, I wouldn't be here without y'all supporting me. And so, just not just my parents, but my siblings too, my extended family. I mean, really, my family I have a big family, and so I just love them all. So they're dear to me. For those of you out there who are hearing but want to be involved with the deaf community, maybe you're an interpreter, or maybe you are a deaf ed student, or whatever, hearing people that want to be involved, or maybe you're already part of the deaf community. I want to encourage you to learn as much as possible. Read books about deaf people. Ask about different perspectives. Expand your knowledge as much as possible. I encourage you to be a lifelong learner. If you feel like, oh, no, I know everything, then there's something wrong with that. It applies to parents, to the deaf community too. Always continue to learn new things and new perspectives and new philosophies, new lives and opinions. Yes, not only that, but the interaction to be able to learn the different, because each deaf person is different. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, each deaf person is different. It's so cool. And so you're like, oh, so that's how you do that versus the other people. It's very interesting. Yes, and that's why I'm glad you're doing this series because there is no one way to be deaf. I mean, this perspective is me. This is my way. This is my way of being deaf, and that's who I am. But there's another deaf person who's going to have a different perspective, and that's okay, right? No two people are alike. Right. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong or I'm right or I'm wrong and they're right. So just, you be a deaf person and just continue to be a lifelong learner and ask questions and talk to people and learn about things. And you're going to have, richer knowledge of your community. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think we can take one or two questions from the audience. Um, sure. Well, I guess there are no questions. Well, you could comment in the chat. Or you can pop up on video if you want to ask a question. If there aren't any questions, that's fine too. Well, I guess you explained everything so well, your whole experience and your upbringing. I really appreciate you being here. And I really want to thank you for being involved in this and to talk about your journey with me and for supporting the library services for the deaf and hard of hearing here in Nashville, Tennessee. And it's just wonderful to work with you as the deaf mentor coordinator, and because I'm a deaf mentor as well. Thank you to the interpreter, to Jeannie, for voicing for us. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you to Elisa Weeks for helping me to let the audience into this Zoom room. And so please subscribe to Nashville Public Library on our YouTube channel. and also at the Library Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Facebook page. I will be uploading this to both places very soon. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Yes, thank you so much for inviting me here. And I always love to support the Library Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Those of you who might not know about this program, please check it out. They have a wonderful website, a lot of great information, a lot of great information. So I encourage you to go check it out and subscribe.